First podcast is a show presented by people with learning disabilities for our friends and community. We talk about issues that are important to us and interview interesting people to find out new information. This is our way to make a difference and have our voices heard.
Right, so hello everyone. We're here from the People First podcast, which is a podcast that's run and presented by adults with learning disabilities. And just before we start, I'd like to thank Slater and Gordon, who sponsored this podcast to allow us to come to NAIDEX today. And thank you all for coming and listening. Off you go, Luke.
So, hello everyone, and welcome to a very special live People First podcast. The People First podcast is a show which is run and presented by adults registered with learning disabilities for our friends and community. We are based at Central Hall in Keighley in West Yorkshire, and we have travelled to NAIDEX just for this show. Today we are interviewing Brooke Milhouse, who is a podcast presenter and a representative of Celia Hensman, who is a disabled founder and investor, a multi-award-winning campaigner and lobbyist, a research, a policy and legal expert, and a speaker, and a consultant. Thank you very much for speaking to us today, Brooke. It's lovely to get the chance to meet you in person and to ask you some questions.
So Shannon, for people
with people
who may not know you, could you share with us a bit about your journey?
Yeah, of course. So I host a podcast called Disabled and Proud, and it's all about empowering disabled people to be proud of themselves, but also proud of their disability, because it's not something that we get to see ever. It's not represented in main media, and it was really lacking for everyone. And so I decided that I really wanted to have conversations with disabled people about their lives, about what they were doing, that weren't, oh my goodness, I'm a para-Olympian, but it equally wasn't, I'm on benefits and I'm benefits grounder. There was no in-between, and there was nothing for the incredible disabled person who's just smashing life. And
But is that hard though?
do you know what? It isn't easy. All podcasts aren't easy. Like, you guys do this too. You know how it can be. But it's great to talk to people about their experience of life and their disability and how the world is for them, because it's different for all of us. It's completely individual to the person, and we need to kind of have that conversation that it's very much individually based, and that we can be proud of who we are, and we can be proud of being disabled.
Thank you.
How can the average person make a difference in improving the lives of disabled people?
Oh gosh, this question has so many answers, doesn't it? We could be here for days talking about this topic. But I think what the average person who is non-disabled needs to remember is that we're all individual and we all relate to our disabilities completely differently. So what fits one person won't fit another person. And equally, like if you've spoken to one disabled person, you haven't spoken to all of the disabled people in the world. And one person isn't representative of an entire community. But how can they help? They can listen and they can learn and they can ask us questions. But questions that aren't intrusive, questions that are genuine and from a place of kind and caring and wanting to know for their own sake.
Thank you very much.
So Shannon, why are events
Why are events
like
like NAIDEX
so important
so important
for the disability
with disabilities
communities?
and communities?
Wow, I love NAIDEX because it means that we're all under one roof. There is very, very rarely a time when this many disabled people inhabit one space, which is incredible because we're all in the world. But we get to meet people who are like us that we don't see every day, and we get to meet up with friends and, you know, really connect with our communities. And so much of the disabled community is online. It's very much 2D, and you don't get that tactile interaction with everyone. And to be here and to see people and to speak to people who are like you or who understand the similar problems that you might have when it comes to your disability is kind of invaluable. And we don't get that in real life, but we do get it here, and that's magical.
What are some of your favourite things you've seen at this year's NAIDEX so far?
Wow, I love the climbing wall. I think that's amazing because it's inclusive for everyone, and it's so hard to find inclusive sports. Like I love sports, but it's really, really hard to find something that's inclusive. So that rock climbing wall is amazing because everybody can get on it, like no questions, no hold bars. That's amazing. But also there are so many different things here. Like you've got neo-walked walking sticks, you've got paramobile for wheelchairs. There are so many different things here that it's almost like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory for the disabled person.
We have had a walk round because we arrived yesterday, and we've seen those walking sticks and mobility scooters, and they look really cool.
Yeah, they are really cool, aren't they? We love brightly coloured stuff.
So, I now have an extra question for you now. Could you share with us a memorable moment from your journey through life that particularly stands out to you?
Oh, a particular memory that stands. Is this in relation to disability?
Well, it can be, or just it can be anything that you've learned through disability, or any adventures you might have done in general. Anything.
Okay. I love it because it's really broad. So I'm going to go really, curveball. I came to NAIDEX 3 years ago, and I hadn't started my podcast. I didn't know anyone. I was very much here just to kind of immerse myself in the community and maybe make friends. And I remember I was sat listening to someone on the main stage, and I was like, one day I'm going to be here and I'm going to come here and I'm going to do something similar, right? And
Yes.
I didn't really think too much of it, but knew that I wanted to have conversations with disabled people and change the narrative about it. And I don't want to glorify hard work, but through persistence of carrying on with my podcast and reaching out to lots of disabled people who I've spoken to, I've kind of realised that this is the most welcoming community ever, and we all want each other to succeed and to thrive. And being a part of that, really immersing myself in it, becoming a real part of it, has been something that's been invaluable for my life. And I genuinely wouldn't be here talking today to you guys if that experience hadn't happened. So There we go.
Well, I'd like to add a little bit. I came with someone for a visit to NAIDEX last year, and I went round everything, and it was very tiring. Can I just say, I'm registered blind, and I was born with no sight, and I was a little bit disappointed to discover that this conference is not geared up just for blind people.
Yeah.
But this year, I've come for the whole thing, and I wouldn't have been here this morning if it hadn't have been for that. So, thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing that with me.
Shannon, mental health
Mental health
is an important
important
part of well-being.
well-being,
Part of well-being. So part of
part of well-being,
that's it. But
but
it's often
often
overlooked
overlooked
in discussions
in discussions
about disability.
in
Disability.
disability.
So how do you think
How do you think
we can
we can
better address
better address
mental health
mental health
within the
within the
disability
disability
community?
community?
Well done. So, this is a really interesting topic because I don't think people always realise that mental health is important for everyone, disabled, non-disabled, it doesn't matter. But when you are disabled, there's like a little extra level of spice thrown in because you're consistently told by society, not necessarily by peers, but by society that you don't fit in and that this world is not built for you, like the structures aren't there, we're seeing all these disabled people here today, but this is not real life. When we leave today, we might be the only disabled person in the room, and people forget that can take a toll. And so I think what we need to address is that it's okay not to feel okay, because being disabled, as much as it's a really big positive in my life, is also really difficult as well. But that's okay. It's okay for it to be difficult, because there are so many barriers to access for us that if we were happy-go-lucky all the time, we'd all burn out. Like, we all wouldn't be here. We'd all be at home. So it's okay not to feel okay. But equally, with saying that, it's also important to realise that society isn't set up for us. So knowing that we're not set up to be here, figuratively speaking, is actually kind of a blessing, because not all the bad things that happen to us are our fault, and that's just society. They're just a bit rubbish. We're not rubbish, but the rest of them, they're all a bit rubbish.
But they are though.
They are rubbish. It's so true. They are.
Because you can't help that.
No, exactly, but that's why it's important to have representation.
Change that, what would you do better?
What would I do better? I would put disabled people everywhere, all of the time, for everybody to see.
Because they will get more. Like, they will get heard.
Exactly.
Bit more, better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly that. We would have way more representation. We'd have way more people who are disabled in every single walk of life. And you would be able to see yourself immediately without having to really search for it, or it being like a special moment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What advice
What advice
do you have
do you have
for disabled people
for disabled people
who are trying to balance work and personal life with looking after their body
and mind?
Wow. Big question. This is a really big question, isn't it? Because I think everybody everybody wants to be able to juggle everything all of the time, because we have somehow equated like being super productive with being incredible, and like it's something that's really sought after. But actually, what I think I would say, particularly disabled people, is that it's okay to take time out for yourself, and it's okay to have a moment where you're not giving, or you're not educating, or you're not worrying about other people and their perceptions of you. You can have a moment for yourself that is just for you and nobody else, and trying to juggle everything. It's like everything in the world, isn't it? You know, it's hard. It's not easy. But taking a moment for yourself and seeing where you are and how you feel and how you can move forward with that is kind of invaluable. So giving yourself that little bit of rest and that space. Space is a really important one for disabled people, because quite often I feel like everybody I speak to is either educating or they're talking about disability, and like we can't have a day off from being disabled, but we can have a day off from talking about it, and that can be quite restorative.
Or it can be annoying sometimes.
Yeah, it can be so annoying when someone's trying to talk to you about something really mundane and they bring your disability into it, and you're like, this wasn't the conversation.
You don't have the answer for that at all.
Yeah.
So I'm not a doctor, I'm not this, I'm not that.
Exactly.
So I don't have the answers to any of them questions.
Yeah, but very, very that.
Networking is a big part of NAIDEX. What positives and negatives are there for different groups of people working together in the disabled community?
Everybody communicates differently, so it's important to take that into account when we come to events like this. There may be people who, when they see you, they really love hugs, and then there are going to be other people who really hate hugs, and it's having that conversation beforehand, being like, are you a hugger? Are you not a hugger? So we know where our boundaries are.
In the middle.
Yeah, I'm a hugger. I love a hug. But networking is also, like I said, we don't get this amount of disabled people all in one space other than events like this. So being able to meet people who are like us is so important, but equally, it can be really nerve-wracking as well. And so never feel disheartened if you feel nervous around a big space like this, because it is overwhelming. Like I was very overwhelmed yesterday. But being able to, make eye contact with someone if you can make eye contact, or giving a little wave, it really goes a long way. It does.
I've got something to add here.
Mm-hmm.
Back at People First, we have done a project in professional boundaries training about when meeting professional people not to do things like getting too close to them, not hugging them, not doing anything, not touching them, and also when we're not with them, we've learnt from the podcast, having professionals on, not to email them after or before, not to send lots of emails to people, look up about them, but not email them.
Well, guys, I need that training because I email too many people at too many inappropriate hours.
But NAIDEX has really taught us and me a lot about how to handle crowded places with professionals, and how to be calm and not too stressed. Well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
So Shannon, as we can see from many products at NAIDEX, technology is changing so quickly. How do you think the future will look for disabled people with technology,
with technology,
continuing,
continuing
with continuing to improve.
Well done, I got lost as well. Technology is always advancing, and that's like, I think I heard something really wild, like all of the technology that was on the first ever spaceship that went to the moon can be now fit on a SIM card. Well, so like this is how far we've come with technology. And so for disabled people who, let's be really honest, like we have had the bare minimum for so long when it comes to tech, to be able to have wheelchairs that do what we want them to do and go in the direction that we want them to go, not just forwards and backwards, is incredible. But also like limb technology, people being able to access things that they wouldn't have previously been able to access is phenomenal. And also it's amazing that it's making other people's lives so much easier. And technology can be scary and it can be intense, but it's a really amazing force for good, particularly for disabled people, because we're going to advance way more than we ever have been before. So actually it's a really uncharted space, because
it must take the burden off you as well.
I think maybe it does sometimes, because you don't have to necessarily fully rely on your sole body, which is quite nice. Like it's nice to have.
That's like what you were saying with the break.
Yeah.
With people always on you.
Exactly.
Asking questions.
Exactly that.
You don't have the answer to it.
Yeah, very that.
There was a lot of media attention around the disability minister late last year. We spoke to our local MP, Robin Moore, who said that it was the media making an issue of a change in personnel, and it's not actually an issue. What are your thoughts on this response?
What a terrible response. So, Parliament is meant to be representative of the entire UK. And so I think it's 20% of the UK are disabled, or class themselves as disabled. MPs are less than 2% of MPs class themselves as disabled. So the reflection is not there. It doesn't exist. So having a minister for people who are technically a marginalised community, even though there's 20% of the UK is actually quite a lot, having someone there who is able to fight your cause and back your corner is invaluable, and suddenly it doesn't exist. For me, the math doesn't add up. 2 + 2 doesn't make 4 at this point in time. It's making 0. And so something really needs to change about it, because it's wildly unfair. But actually, what I can't wrap my head around is that we're in 2024. And we're still having this argument that we need to be represented and that we still need representation, but somehow it's too hard and it doesn't matter. Well, look at all of these people in the room today. Does that mean that our experiences don't matter? Of course they do. But what rubbish.
I know what rubbish, and people with learning disabilities, any disability at all. I've learnt this from people first, and as I've grown into an adult, people with disabilities are just like any other people who without learning disabilities.
Exactly. And we all deserve to be represented by the powers that be who make the laws of this country.
We do.
So, Shannon, we're on the outro. So, that's all.
That's all
we have
time
for today.
Everyone.
Thank you,
Brooke,
for speaking
to us
today. We
Dear.
hope
We hope
you
you
and the audience
and the audience
have really enjoyed
really enjoyed
the show
the
today.
show
Today.
today.
Before we end
Before we end
the show
the show,
and go to explore
explore
the rest
the rest
of NAIDEX,
of NAIDEX.
do you have
Do you have
anything else
anything else
you would
like
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 to add?
to add?
Guys, I just want to say thank you for having me, and this has been really lovely and I've really enjoyed it. You guys are really good. Like, you guys will have to come on my podcast. We'll make that happen for sure, because I think it'll be a really fun conversation. But thank you for having me.
I just want to say we would like to have you back on our podcast, and if people want to find out more about you, where can they go?
So you guys can find the podcast, Disabled and Proud Podcast. It's on all podcast platforms. We also have a live show today at 12:15 at the Village Green. And we've got like a little panel talk, which will be really fun. You can find us on Instagram at Disabled and Proud Podcast. And I'm on LinkedIn. I'm Brooke Milhouse, so I'm also on Instagram as well. And feel free to drop me an email if you have any questions. Like, my emails are always open.
Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you,
Everyone.
everyone,
The show
for
will be released. Break it down on 24th of April.
24th of April.
You can find us
You can find us
on Spotify,
iTunes,
Amazon Podcast,
and even Broadcast,
Google Podcast,
Google Broadcast,
and our website
and our
website
website,
by searching
for
People First Podcast.
People First Broadcast.
Episodes released
Released
every Wednesday.
every Wednesday.
You can find us on social media. Hopefully we'll see you all again soon.
See you soon. Remember to comment, like, share on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. You will find us by searching for People First Broadcast. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.